So what are we going to talk about in this episode, Dave? What's up?
In this episode, we want to look at the safe universe, death and dying, and other topics that may arise.
So what do you mean by safe universe? Like there's war all over, crime, violent crime. How can people feel safe in this world?
Okay. This is going cattywonkers, but anyway.
All right, well, you start it. What is
okay.
Well, start with the concept that Seth
right,
talks about of a safe universe.
So Seth brought in this amazing concept of you actually live in a safe universe. And that was 180 degrees from what Rob and Jane experienced and really the rest of the world experiences on a day-to-day basis, or how they feel or what they believe. So the idea is this. It's actually quite simple, and yet if you can make this change to living in a safe universe, you can actually change your life, practically speaking, forever. And it's of immense benefit, and we'll talk about the benefits later. But if you talk about safe universe, when we think of that, it's actually, believe it or not, it's a belief in your reality. Do you believe that it's a safe universe, or do you believe that it's an unsafe universe? And most people have been trained and conditioned to believe it's an unsafe universe. We lock our doors, we lock our car. People in the United States have guns. They have many guns. They wish each other, have a safe journey, drive safely, you've got to be careful out there. You've got to watch out for wild animals. You've got to watch out for people that could harm you. People are out to get you. There's a lot of crime going on. There's a lot of violence in the world. It goes on and on.
So this kind of begs the question, which came first? Because people's experience, right, is showing you the evidence that it's not safe. There's all of these things. So is that the outer expression of the belief that it's not safe? Yeah. Or is it not safe and you just have to try to Pollyanna over it and go, no, I'm going to believe that it's safe?
No, it's not Pollyanna. Remember, we've talked before and in other venues about we create reality from the inside out, right? Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Well, yeah, we're responsible for that.
Listeners at home.
You dragged that out of me. At any rate, so if we create reality from the inside out, our thoughts and our beliefs and a belief in an unsafe universe will actually create that. So Seth brings this into our consciousness, and he goes, really, in your world, fear is rampant. It's everywhere. People are afraid to walk down the street at night, afraid to drive home in the dark, afraid to even open their doors and windows without them being locked. It's like, what if people climb through?
Right,
what if you go into the wrong part of town? Oh, you've got to be afraid of people of various cultures and so forth. It's like there's all these beliefs. Fear of the foreigner. Migration is a huge issue all over the world because it's foreign people coming in to take our jobs and, who knows what to the people that live here. So these fears, and I'm putting it mildly, like the fear is actually much more rampant than that. And actually, what happens is, if you increase your fears, you actually help draw those experiences that you don't really want to you. I ask you to take that on speculation for right now.
Yeah, no, I can think of an example, right?
Okay.
So this is something I think a lot of people can relate to. Because again, when we see it in somebody else, somebody that we know, it's often easier than to recognize it in ourselves.
Of course.
So we've all had the experience when we can see like a friend keeps like their biggest fear is like, say, like the relationship that somebody is going to leave them or betray them or something like that. Yep. And you can actually observe them in a whole series of behaviors and way of communicating and way of being in the relationship that is actually pushing the person away, that is actually producing the thing that they're most afraid of, right? So they're subconsciously, they're not fully letting themselves be aware of it, but because they're so afraid that this will happen, they're actually creating the like self-sabotaging conditions where, you know, it's going to happen. Like you can predict, okay, they're pushing the person away.
So fears, are you saying like that fears, in this example, fears turn to that insecurity in the person and then that gets
they have a fear,
transmitted
right?
outside.
Yeah, they have a fear. They're telepathically communicating it to the other person. But on top of that, they're actually doing behaviors and actions, subtle and not so subtle, that is causing it. So let's say you're insecure, like a fear in relationship that you're going to be left or lost or something, and you get really needy and controlling and demanding, and you're constantly like, where are you? What did you do? What's happening? Like, who wants to be with a person like that? So now you're actually creating the conditions to fulfill your fear.
Right. And, you know, just to be really clear with our audience, and I know you know this already, we're not saying leave your house wide open. You know, leave your car open and leave your keys and wallet on the front. No, not at all. Like, you be practical, right? It's like, you're not saying, you don't run the flag up and go, oh, you know, I've left everything here, go ahead.
Hear ye, come one and all. But, you know, I've had these, I guess I must have been really applying these safe universe principles because, for example, I did, like, my wallet fell out of my purse on my way into yoga, and I came back out and it was put on the windshield of my car.
Oh, great.
Or,
yeah. What
right?
did you expect? Yeah.
I didn't even know it had fallen out. So obviously there's something there. Not only is it that, okay, I was safe, but it was giving, if there are no accidents, as we've said, if everything we're creating from the inside out, there's something there that I maybe needed or wanted confirmation. No, I'm okay. Look, people are good. And they found my wallet and they just put it right up on my windshield.
That's a great example. Yeah. So it's kind of like,
and this is in the middle of LA, by the way. Keep going.
Well, well, we all know how dangerous it is here, right?
Well, you know, it's a major city where people would think not safe.
So minor cities are more safer?
More safe.
Oh, are they? Okay, then. Right.
Maybe not. But in any case.
No, I've actually had a similar thing happen to me in New York City. Like, I lost my wallet, and the taxi driver said, oh, forget it, mate. You'll never get it back. And it's like, and then you know what? I worried about it for a while, and then I actually got a phone call. And it's like, the guy said, I think I found your wallet.
Aww.
And he called an Australian phone number.
Oh, wow.
And I got into another taxi to go where he was. He goes, do you know how rare this is? Usually, you'll never see it again. The cash will be gone. It's done. You're toast. It's like, yeah, well, whatever.
All right, so back to the principles.
Yeah, let's go back to the principle. It's like, this is a great experiment. Because you may have alternate beliefs. It's like, you can't be too careful. You know, you got to watch out for bugs, and you're always wiping stuff down, and you know, you never know what you can catch, and people are out to get me, and it's a dog eat dog world, and you know, you can't be too careful around these kind of people and all that. But you can try something, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to try this new belief out. And so you can say to yourself, I live in a safe universe. I live in a safe universe. And just that, and I will get rid of the other suggestion, which is I live in a dangerous, unsafe universe. And try it out. And it means, you know, being normal, being rational. You don't have to, you know, as I said, leave the doors open and all that kind of stuff. But what happens is this. I'll just foretell this a little bit, and I'd like to hear what your experience is. What I've found is, for me, as I changed that belief, I worried less. I spent less energy on protecting myself. I realized I didn't have to. I had more energy to do all the things I wanted. I was a lot more friendly with people because I didn't fear them at all. And nature was on my side. So all these things changed, and some of those that I just mentioned seem tiny, but actually, they're actually quite large when they're taken in total and as you change your beliefs. So how about you? What was your experience?
Well,
I know you've done this.
Yeah, several things are coming to mind as you're saying that, because as I'm hearing this, what I'm hearing is that if you live in fear, you're not free. So if you have reprogrammed yourself to recognize actually the truth that the reality, like an inner reality, is perfectly safe for all of us, right? We'll always get the out picturing of our beliefs. But if you are living in any kind of programs of fear, you have no freedom. You can't be free if you're
That's
afraid.
so true. You know what just hit me is something that I see positive in you is you allow yourself to express yourself. So there's also a fear. Unsafe Universe is also about expressing ourselves.
Absolutely.
Expressing our feelings, our thoughts. And how many people, they dampen themselves down on what they think and they feel. And it actually, when you dampen that stuff down, you dampen everything down.
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say?
It's all or nothing. You don't get to selectively, well, I'll keep the joy up, but let's just turn down the fear or anger. Like, no, if you turn it, and whatever you turn down, everything gets
like
turned down.
people that always have the smile on their face. It's like, I got to watch them because I know they're dampening down some of the stuff that they won't like to express.
So back to what you were just saying about your experience of me, and I'm really happy to hear this because I very consciously, deliberately had to work on the belief systems, like, and how they arose in my family experience and otherwise, that it was not safe to fully be and express who I am in this world, and that there would be consequences, unwanted consequences. I would be punished. I would be rejected. I would be attacked.
Don't talk too loudly.
I would be shamed.
Don't shine.
Right. Don't shine too bright. So this is a lot of people, like having worked, with many, many people over the years, like one-on-one, is that this is a deep fear in a lot of people, because think about how this can arise. So you're a young dependent infant child, like you can't go out and live on your own. You're dependent on your caregivers, your family, whoever, is feeding and housing and sheltering you. And you can get almost like, because emotional survival and physical survival is really identical for a very small child, and even almost pre-verbal. Yeah. So if the fear of being rejected, abandoned, neglected, ignored, not approved of, not accepted, not belonging, becomes an existential survival threat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so this is how a lot of this can arise, because it for that small child, it actually, if you don't get with the program, how are you going to survive? Yeah. Right? So this is how some of this can arise, and it gets sort of baked into the nervous system. But once we hit adolescence and then adulthood, we're supposed to outgrow those belief systems that we grew up with or got programmed.
Then it's time to make choices about which ones we want to keep and which ones we don't.
Right. Investigate.
So when our parents were teaching us how to navigate around, we'd go up to a street. And, we were told, be careful, don't go out there. There's cars going by. And so we were like really hyper careful, I remember. And then over time, you realize it's like, oh, it's not as dangerous as mom and dad let on. It's just like, look both ways and then you go. But
so you outgrew that fear.
Yeah, you grew out that fear and that belief. So that belief is not what it used to be. Right. Streets are no longer dangerous, but you must take due care, right? So that's a good example. So what Seth is saying is like, hey, let's examine the beliefs about the unsafe universe, and that includes health scares. We're scaring the crap out of people around illness, disease, all kinds of things. We're scaring the crap out of people about foreign countries that want to come here and, take us
your
over.
Way of life.
Yeah, take your way. Maybe not. But anyway, so all that thing. And so we have to be it really just means being a little bit more conscious and making some decisions about working to live in a safe universe. And it's actually, I found it so beneficial. And we don't want a culture that, is rampantly repressed and fearful.
No, that just makes it more dangerous, because then you're projecting these fears outward, and now you have to be in defense mode. Now you're justifying any of your actions, right? It enables you to justify all kinds of violent, aggressive actions.
Well, and those violent, aggressive action comes out of explosions from repressed
energy
and
energy. And
absolutely.
Fear that you're not owning.
It's
and
not
you're
because
out.
people are super conscious and no, it's because they're angry, they feel out of control.
Right.
There's lots of reasons.
Feel powerless.
But
so,
really, all those things come up when you live in a safe universe.
So I wanted to
an unsafe universe, sorry.
Right. Unsafe universe. So I wanted to get back to the question you had asked, because there's two aspects of this about safe universe. So one aspect is kind of the nature of reality, the kind of like growth medium of reality that we're in, being able to express ourselves through. So there's like the larger nature of inner reality, let's say, and then there's just the very personal thing. So if we go back to the primary tenet, fundamental principle or teaching of the Seth material, is that you create your own reality or your own experience of reality from the inside out, from the combined energy of your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, attitudes, expectations, imagination, all of that. So I was looking at an area in my life where I needed to create more safety, more feeling of security, more feeling of, I would say security. And I was like, well, wait a second. It can't be outside of me. It has to be from inside. If it is true that like my inner self, like through my thoughts, energy, and emotion is projecting my experiences of reality, then I'm in charge of my safety. It's not an outside thing. It's not about anyone else. I'm the determinant of my safety.
Exactly. And by the way, your consciousness can never be destroyed or annihilated.
Right.
So, and no one dies until basically they choose to die. And obviously sometimes that is not conscious. They don't go, I think I'll go out and die today.
Today's a good day.
Rarely does that occur.
Yeah.
But it's done on another level by another part of yourself, because obviously if you did choose that, your ego would absolutely go ballistic. It's like, today's death day. Like, then you would be like somewhat anxious.
All right. So are we segueing into like the whole death and dying episode?
I reckon.
Is that part of the safe
because,
universe thing?
Yes, and here's why.
Okay. Tell us why, Dave.
Well, you told me earlier, so I'm telling you back. So, look, death and dying. In the hierarchy of fears in this world, that's probably number one. People's fear of death. And then what happens after death? So I think we should chat quite a bit about that.
Okay.
What happens? What happens in the death process? What happens maybe in the birth process? But let's look around that, because, in Seth's first book, he called it Seth Speaks, The Eternal Validity of the Soul. Like, that subtitle is there for a really good reason.
Right.
Because he's trying to, let's answer that, and let's work with that right away for good purpose.
Right. And this is such a common thing that we hear in the Seth Center community of like when we poll our community members, like, what is it about the Seth material? What is it got, given to your life? What have you taken from this? What has it done for you? And this eliminating fear, especially fear of death, is one of like the top 3 or 4 things that people say. And I actually love this topic, not from any weird morbid stuff, but
that's good.
and I can tell you why. So back to what you were just saying, eternal validity of the soul. So the reality is that your soul is, you're like a divine spark of all that is, of, if you want to call it God. Seth calls it all that is because he didn't want all the connotations from organized religion about God, where you're then picturing some, judgmental white old man in the sky who's looking down on you and trying to see what's happening in your bedroom. And whether that's good or bad, and should you go to heaven or hell.
Let's see.
So death is a transition. It is not an end. Your consciousness, your identity does not dissolve into nothingness. It does not cease. It continues to grow in all dimensions of reality
It's
that you
inviolate
choose.
is the word that he uses.
There's no
So you
end.
can't destroy it. No one can take it away from
You can't sell it. You can't
sell-
give it away.
You
can't lose it.
So does that mean
It
everyone
can't
who's
be
doing soul retrievals are out of business? Is there like a type of dog that does soul retrieval?
Yeah. Soul retriever.
A soul retrieval. Probably it's either
Here's a
white
soul
or black
retriever
or a mix
puppy.
of both, depending on what he's doing.
Well, I think it's just like a misnomer to call it a soul retrieval. But what it actually is, really, is just coming to connect with consciously aspects of your multidimensional self that you have blocked out of your awareness because you've been conditioned that it's not even possible to know it. So you can't lose yourself. You can't lose parts of yourself. You can't sell them off. You can't have them damned or cursed. It's like that eternal spark of awareness,
Seth
consciousness,
says you're
life.
going to be, whether holy words and oils are put on you at death, you can never lose your state of grace.
Exactly.
Ever.
So that's part of that safe universe, is that we live in this state of grace.
Yeah. And we're supported by all that is and our inner selves.
Well, you are
Constantly.
all that is. You're you're a individualized expression. So that's the other thing about.
Are you saying that God's inside of us?
You are God. You are God in training.
Oh, yeah. I like that term. It's a good one, isn't it?
Right? So because you can't be separate from your source, could you? How could you possibly be separate from the source that gives you life?
I don't know.
I know. What keeps animating your life? How can you be separate from that?
I know. I agree with you. I can't deny it. No, and actually, once you start to realize that you're creating all of this, like, holy crap! You mean I'm creating all of these relationships. I'm creating or helping to create co-creation, all of these events. Like, it's a bit mind blowing, actually, and I know some people can get. Oh no, like, why am I continuing to create all this crap, or constructions or events that aren't so great?
Right. Well, we don't want people going into like blame, self-recrimination, more guilt. Like that's part of what created the unfortunate experiences in the first place. But it's really more to understand the freedom and power, right? Yes, you have to take responsibility, but then you get all the freedom and power of that.
Absolutely.
So, like, you can't get to keep the story of being a victim and get to be free at the same time.
Damn. But being a victim is quite, I can remember that. I mean, I still do it from time to time, but what I'm getting better at is catching myself when I'm going, when I'm being a victim of someone or of a feeling of
Right.
like, oh, she made me feel like this, or he did this to me, or and it's like, there's an old thing, and I know most everyone knows it. It's like, own your own feelings. It's like, but it's so conditioned in us to blame.
Right.
Our boss, our partner, our kids,
The government.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, them.
The
They're
government,
easy
the
targets.
economy, your boss. Yeah, you said your boss.
Other
Yeah.
people, other countries. Oh, yeah.
Well, because it's always outside.
External to us.
Right. It just happens to me.
Yeah. So there's bad countries and there's good countries.
And there's bad
Our
people,
friends.
then there's good people.
Yeah, Isn't it? And really,
Yeah.
So we project our feelings out onto, like what we just talked about, countries in this case, and events too. So the more we own creating these events, and if we see something that we don't really like, well, then we can start to change our beliefs and thus emotions and using our imagination to create better events.
So we've kind of we're going all over the place because it's all tied together. It's very hard to talk about like safe universe, death, birth without talking about how are you creating your own reality and what are the substrate conditions that we're creating reality out of. I would like to get back a little bit to the death conversation because we picked this up in other episodes. I think it's really important that people understand. So it is a transition. Your identity continues to grow and evolve. It's not an end. And there is no hell or heaven.
What?
Yeah, well, sorry.
There isn't?
No hell or heaven except the ones that you create for yourself or co-create together. So what happens after you die? There is no, like in the same thing in life, there's no one single thing. It all depends on your needs, your desires, your state of development, your purposes, how much of your multidimensional self you've already been in relationship with, or if you only think you're just this one small identity alone in the universe. So just as in life, like people's experiences are highly varied, right?
Yes.
It's like that in the afterlife.
I've got a great example.
All right, give it to
comes
me.
from the
Lay
material.
it on me.
All right, baby. So in Seth Speaks, he gives some great examples, and I want to share one. After you die, you transition, so obviously you're not in your body anymore. Most people leave their body, at least, for a while. And then they go into a state of consciousness, which is somewhat similar to and akin to the dream state. Mm-hmm. So that's why if you study and become familiar with your dreams, you'll make a much easier transition within the death state. It won't be such a shock for you. But here's the example that Seth gave. He goes, as you leave, you'll be met by guides in form that you'll be familiar with. So it might be previous relative or a spouse or someone that from another reality.
Or like a beloved teacher even a religious figure.
Exactly.
Like a guide could take a form.
That's the one I want to use.
Ah, okay.
So Seth goes, well, and I've served as a guide, many, many times. And he goes, there was a Middle Eastern man who's the figure? It's the guy, the Dead Sea guy. Who's that?
Moses?
Oh, Moses. Yeah.
The Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea guy. Why is that a
What
sea?
is this? That's like a ship.
Dead Sea. All right.
Parting
I'm
the
coming
waves.
through. So the Dead Sea. But for whatever reason, this Arab really admired Moses and held him in high esteem. Didn't make sense.
I remember this story.
Didn't make sense, but Seth said, me, meaning Seth, and some of his friends dressed up in form like the characters from this biblical setting, because this is what this Arab man respected and, was expecting to see. So Seth goes, I actually think I did a pretty good job acting like Moses, and some of my friends were there too. But then what happens over time is, they go, excuse me, Mr. Ali, you have died. So they do explain it in terms that the person can then start to understand and they can make a transition. So it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It's like in a caring, loving universe that all that is has helped to engender and create. Obviously, you don't want to scare the crap out of people and hurt them emotionally. You want to support them. And so we do that in the afterlife transition in that way.
For deeper perspectives on reality, manifestation, consciousness, and personal and collective evolution, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Seth Center. We share quotes, clips, insights, and fresh angles on all the big questions, all rooted in the Seth material and designed to support your growth from the inside out.
The one thing that I will say is universally true is that everybody will do a life review. Now, not like a judgmental thing, but we each set up, and this can go into the birth part, we each set up different themes and purposes and things that we want to learn and grow and develop and accomplish in a life. And, it's multiple. There's not like a single, oh, this is my sole purpose, like some job description. No, you're doing a whole bunch of things in every lifetime.
It's not just one thing,
It's not just one thing, right?
No. I thought that.
Yeah, no, it's not just one thing. So you will go through a life review to really see, like, oh, that created this. Oh, this kind of thought pattern created that. Oh, how well did I do on learning this? How did I handle that, right?
Actually, I've seen or I've read that some people actually, or what you can do, because time's simultaneous.
Right.
So our lives continue to happen, that you can actually insert yourself back into a particular time, and do a
different version,
and do a different version, exactly. Yes. Because some people are perfectionists, right? They go, "Oh, I really fucked that. Sorry, guys, I effed that up." If I had gone this way, you know what I mean?
Like do-over.
A do-over, and fair enough. But you don't have to.
No, but some people...
Is that so?
Yeah, absolutely. Some people will want to go back and like really try to make it come out better, make it come out different. They're going to keep tinkering with it in different probable realities. So, we're all going to grow and mature and evolve in the end. And everybody has their own inclinations. And
so are we... this is like the human Earth situation. And Seth talked about other dimensions. Something I found fascinating, and I want to ask what your take on this is.
Okay.
You know where this is coming, isn't it? You know what's
coming.
Coming.
Lay it on me.
Yeah. Some people choose to go to other systems. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Okay. And case in point, I have a direct experience of that. And also we're simultaneously in other systems anyway, but some people, either they've completed the lessons of what it is to be in a physical system like this, because you have to get good at managing the creative energy of your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, imagination, all of that, because in other systems there is no lag time. It just it's like in a dream. It just happens. So you could be like running amok in other systems if you're not understanding the relationship between what you're generating and what's happening, right? You've got to get that.
That brings up a fantastic point.
And then we'll go back to other systems.
We'll come back to other systems. But lucid dreams, great case in point. One of the lucid dreams I had, what I realized was I was creating everything inside that dream. Absolutely everything. As soon as I thought it or felt it,
it happened.
It shifted and it happened. And it's like, what hit me like a ton of bricks was, it's like, if I'm doing that in my dream, I'm doing that in my waking life, except at a slower pace.
Exactly.
There can't be any contradiction.
Yeah, because it's either this is the way reality works all the time, or it's not the way reality works, and then we're just in a haphazard, accidental universe, which is like
either
absurd.
You either create your own reality, or everything's an accident. Can't be in between.
No. It's not like, oh, it's a blue moon on a Tuesday at 11. I guess I'm creating my reality. But now it's Wednesday.
Yeah,
nope, it's just happening to me.
Well, it's nice that. You could do that. It's like, well, I created this. But then you can blame others for other stuff, for the bad stuff.
Except we can't.
Taking no
response. We don't have no more.
But then you get stuck in this system
forever. No more blankie
forever.
anymore. You don't get the reality creation blankie anymore, Dave.
No, and then you get stuck in this system because you didn't learn your lesson.
Exactly.
So here's a question. So, what if you really stuff it up and you create a reality like, you're really not, I won't call them bad people, but really distorted person, like, you kill people, like you're a terrible person. Like, what happens to them? Do they get punished and stuff?
No, there's no punishment. Like karma, like bad karma is a punishment thing, is a gross misunderstanding and distortion. And again, it would be based on linear time, which we've been trying to establish here isn't existing like that. It's all happening at once.
So punishment makes no sense if it's
and
simultaneous time.
Yeah, and self-punishment, you'll have to learn to outgrow that too. So what happens with those people? Because what is this based on? Why would those behaviors be happening? It's based on deep distortion, misunderstanding, ignorance, and then like no person who loves themselves and knows their power and accepts who they are needs to dominate, destroy, harm another. It would be ridiculous. Why would you do that? You have no need to dominate or control anybody else if you really know your power and freedom. It would be absurd. Yeah. You're only doing that as a compensation for feeling powerless or bad or wrong inside yourself. So you have to project, or being in fear. So you have to, aggress first in order to create some illusion of safety.
Well, yeah, people are choosing distorted means to reach some end. Like I'll use Hitler as an example. Like some of the aims that he had, which was trying to help,
like an heroic, idealized version,
Aryan race. He really did have that in mind. But the means to that end, we've got this race, our race is the best. Well, that means we must get rid of these other races. We'll get rid of the Jewish people, and it's just like...
Yeah, again, it's a lot of...
It was and he actually knew it, and he sabotaged himself sometimes.
Well, there's, again, it's ignorance, misunderstanding, distortion, and misunderstanding of... yourself, the nature of reality, all of that. There's like a number of things can weave into it. But, one of the things that, and it's so funny that even though I've been reading and studying and working with the Seth material since I was about 17 years old, there's only in the past year or so in rereading for like whatever nth time, one of the books that I came across this, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was talking about, on the planet at any one time, you have this entire spectrum. You have people coming into human existence that have never done physical reality before. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who are basically complete with their learning here, and they're just kind of hanging out, helping the rest of us. So it's like a really mixed bag on the planet. So you've got widely varying levels of maturity and understanding and development, right? So, you could have like a nursery school kid mixed in with a postgraduate, doctorate researcher.
So you're saying people are at all stages of
all
development.
Different stages.
I remember reading that too, and it's like, that really makes sense, doesn't it?
And it also, how would I put this? How did this affect my life? Is it gave me that level of understanding. It gave me so much more compassion and tolerance, because, why should I judge someone because they're in nursery school, because they're 4 years old, or kindergarten? Like, they're just at that age. I was that age.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm not that age anymore.
I like that a lot, because it's looking at people, it's like everyone's on a mission. Everyone's a projection of their entity. They all have an inner self. They're all gods in training. They may not do everything great all the time or really good, but they're here to learn too. And I don't know about for you, but for me, that allows my empathy and compassion to be there. Not just for myself, but for them too.
For everybody else. I mean, now, this in no way, shape, or form means that we condone or we agree with intentionally harmful, destructive, or violent behavior.
No, obviously,
there is no excuse or justification for acts of hatred or violence, or infringing on other people's rights or well-being intentionally. No, there is no.
Exactly.
You don't get a get out of free card for that. You're going to have to face that, and you will, of your own accord, in one lifetime or another, learn that lesson, and you will be just intrinsically have your own impulse to make amends in a way.
Adding to that comment, Seth was pretty clear. He said, look, if you were a victimizer in one life, you might choose to be the victimized in another life.
So you could
So
develop,
you're trying, you're
empathy, compassion, and understanding, like walk a mile in their shoes, only now you're going to have to live a lifetime in their shoes.
Yeah, I know. So it's and really, again, it doesn't excuse it.
Right.
And, he did say very clear, you will learn.
Yeah.
They will learn.
They will, because that is the
And not a punishment scale.
No, that's the impulse of life. It is your own. It's nobody's imposing any of these lifetimes on you. It's not a punishment. It's your own thing of like, okay, well, I need this to balance that out, or I need to develop this capacity or this quality. It's self-directed, which comes back to, again, so we talked about death, the after death state where, you will keep growing and evolving. You'll choose, are you going to incarnate again? Are you going to go into another system, which we were going to answer, but let me pause that one and go back to, so that means not only are you choosing the time and circumstances of your death at the inner self level,
Yep.
but you're choosing the time and circumstances of your birth.
Exactly. And, when you start to consider this and allow it to, filter through, you start to realize it's like, yeah, I'm choosing it, but I'm choosing it in cooperation with others, family members, new family members, old family members. And I've also got to be aware of time frames, what's going to happen, potential probable events, and how I might intersect with others. Many people make appointments to meet, right? Like old friends, new partners, old partners. So not all, but many people can reincarnate with each other. Entire towns can do it. Family groups do it, but they might change roles. So mother might become the child. And I know something about you, so I know you have a great example.
Exactly.
Do you want to share that at all?
Yeah, I could. We were talking about this earlier. So I have one child. I have a son. And this particular entity was coming to me in the dream state and was like, okay, knock on the door. I'm ready to come in now. Wait, okay. Another week or so later. Did you hear me? I need to come in now. I have to come in now. You've got to let me in. You promised. So I had to kind of work his dad around to being ready and willing to have a child. So we did. We ended up having a very conscious conception. And I had experiences like within the first couple months of my pregnancy where I knew absolutely that one of my best friends in the entire universe, who I hadn't seen in like a few thousand years or something, was coming to be my child. And this is my son. And I've had so many direct memories, awareness of other lifetimes, like various lifetimes that we've had together, including, for example, a lifetime in ancient Egypt where he was my spiritual master. And now I'm his mother.
So was he related to you in that lifetime? Were you
no, not in that lifetime.
anything?
No, but we've had other lifetimes where, he's been the parent and I've been the child. We've had romantic lifetimes together. We've done the gamut. Apparently, we really like to hang out with each other.
And you would. Why wouldn't you? Like, and that it kind of makes sense too. Like, I know how this can sound. But when you start to discover it for yourself, it doesn't sound as strange. It actually makes a lot more sense than, well, everything's random. It's life's an accident. Everyone you run into, you never know what's going to, no. It's actually quite meaningful. And a lot of the people that you know or you're friends with or you have relationships or family,
you actually
have a deeper relationship
exactly
than you suspect.
Well, and I think this is such a common experience. I think everybody has had the experience of meeting someone for the first time. And again, they're just so familiar. You know them, you feel comfortable with them. You feel a natural affinity and affection that is instant. There's no current life history to account for the feeling that is there already. And it's because you already have relationships. Now,
how can you? I want to interrupt. Sorry. Okay. How can you find out about this stuff like you did? How would one go about that?
Well, there are a couple ways. Basically, it's all going to rely on opening up your awareness, setting your conscious mind to be willing, to be available and receptive to other levels of awareness. So typically you can do it by going into some type of an altered state so that you're not using just your outer, logical conscious mind and outer senses. You're activating your what we would call your inner senses. So you can do it from the waking state into some degree of like what you've called before, like a trance state. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to think of an out of control trance state. You're just turning. Think of your consciousness like a camera lens, right? Mm-hmm. You can turn it and focus it in different directions. Right. So you would open the aperture and turn it so you could receive, see, connect with other lifetimes, other levels of reality. Now, the other way that you can do it, of course, is in the dream state, it's very easy there. And the way to do that, I would suggest, and how Seth would suggest it, is that you give yourself a suggestion, what he would call a dream incubation. As you're going to sleep, you just have a short phrase, and I want to know about any other lifetimes with this person. Show me in the dream state any other lifetimes, and then add in, and I will recall this, or this will be easy for me.
And I will record it in the morning.
I will record it in the morning, right? So,
right.
So you can do it in the dream state, or you can do it just by, a kind of alteration of
so it's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's very simple because all of this is available to us. It's standard operating equipment. You cannot be human. You cannot have consciousness without inner senses. What's happened is that from early childhood on, depending on your family and cultural situation, you've been heavily conditioned and programmed to ignore these, to shut them down, to deny them. But, just because you closed your eyes doesn't mean you can't open them.
Right. So,
right?
What is there any downside to this, or is there sounds like what's the real benefit of finding out about this kind of thing for you? What do you think?
I think for me, the benefit again is this greater understanding of why am I here? What am I doing? And why am I with these people? Which was a early childhood question over and over again. What am I doing in this family? Because sometimes we're in a family setting where it's not very congenial. Like we've decided, we're gonna incarnate together in a family to work out these conflicts that we've had. Let's see if we can finally come to mutual understanding and harmony and love, or at least tolerance, right? So, sometimes you see these very tangled incarnational things in families. But for me, the benefit of all of this is that I have a much broader, wider sense of myself. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that I just don't take personally, anymore. I have a lot more feeling of confidence, freedom, mobility, and it's just like much richer. Like a lot of the people who are close in my life right now, I've had other lifetimes with, and it's just such a deep, rich, rewarding kind of dynamic to have that.
That's so cool.
It makes everything richer and deeper.
And I think I just had this occur to me. It's like, and if that's so for you, which I know it is, it's really so for everybody. So everyone's, we're talking about all these connections, and it's like, everyone's got all that all these connections too.
Yeah. It just helps you see like behind the scenes, behind the veil. I think this is a lot for me, like why I connected right away with the Seth material and have stayed through it my entire lifetime is that if you're a person like me who like, I want the real deal. I don't want like, don't give me the pablum. Don't give me the, public version of it. Strip back the veils. I want to see how reality really works. I want to know how I'm creating my reality. I want to know how can I grab hold of my power and my freedom to create a more fulfilling reality, because this is the thing. There is a inner law of the universe that is true in every single reality system that Seth calls value fulfillment. It's an intrinsic drive for all existence to unfold and fulfill potentiality. Ever emerging beingness, ever evolving fulfillment, expression of potentiality. It's the intrinsic life impulse in any reality system.
Yeah. In other words, growing.
Growth.
Yeah. Something you said sparked a remembrance in me, and it's because we're talking about death and dying, and we've all had people, perhaps by this time, who have died. And both my parents died when I was in my early 20s, and I've had other people die in my life, since that time. At any rate, as I came through the material, I realized, well, I'm going to try this out. And I had a terrible relationship with my father. I thought he was an asshole, and he was, still in my opinion. But lots of people have issues with their parents,
a beloved asshole.
And of course, it's all about mom, according to Freud. But at any rate,
God.
So I thought,
unless it's about dad.
Yeah, unless it's about dad. But really, mom. Anyway,
that's another
it's
topic.
Mom's fault,
Keep
right?
going.
It's mom's fault, man. So what I decided to do was, okay, they're both dead. I want to contact them and see if I can resolve this thing with my dad and visit with my mom too. Like, do people still exist, even though they've been dead for whatever? Anyway, I had a series of dreams. Holy shit. Like, they were awesome. And there was no doubt they were my parents. However, in these dreams, my mom appeared as she would have been in her mid-30s. My dad appeared as he would have been in either low 30s or late 20s.
Why is that like the ideal age when you see your dead relatives? Why do they like the 30s the best?
I don't know.
What is up with that?
Well, here's what I've heard.
It's so common.
And I know. Well, they picked the form that they felt like they were at their best.
Okay.
That's the idea anyway. At any rate, and I had significant dreams with both of them. I saw my dad. We had an interaction. I understood him a lot more, and where he was coming from, and why.
He was the way he was.
He was the way he was, and I took it in a terrible way.
Right.
And the same with my mom. Totally different setting. But and it wasn't fake. Yeah. This is real.
There's an emotional reality to it. Yeah. You can feel.
Just for reference, Seth talks about this. There's one of the Jane books, which is her best probably, is the After Death Journal of William James, which talks about the after-death experience from William James's perspective.
Who is an American philosopher, for those of you who aren't familiar with him.
Kind of the father of modern psychology, at any rate. So, these things are all there for us to explore, and I just hope people try, because it doesn't take much actually to trot this path, and the benefits are immense.
So you had an after-death healing of your relationship with your father.
I did, but I did have to let go of blaming him. For being as I thought he was.
There you go. Having to let go of being the victim. I know. Oh, dear.
Hey, we picked each other, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And actually that helped my parenting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Practical effect.
I know. No, it really was actually, and
We'll have to interview your daughters to see. Do you
Yeah,
remember the
no,
before
I'm not
and
telling
the
you.
after?
yeah, the before and after. At any rate, so some of these things, this life and death stuff, and the way that we're talking about going about exploring it, can be super beneficial.
And I think this is such a very, very common experience. Like so many people have dreams of relatives that have passed on and that come to them in the dream state. I also had an after-death healing with my father. Do you want to hear that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So this was a man who he died from colon cancer that had metastasized to his liver and everywhere else. And this was a man who would rather have a root canal than deal directly with any kind of emotional anything, right? I mean, in many ways, lovely, dear man, but not very emotionally skillful. Let's put it that way. And so he came to me in these series of dreams. First, he was just like kind of apologizing for things and all of that. And then one dream, he took me to visit what he was doing in the after death state. And what he was doing blew my mind totally. He was leading a peer support group for people who had died from some kind of catastrophic illness. And so he had me visit the group. They're all sitting around and they're dealing with what their beliefs were and what their purposes were and what they were creating and how they were getting this or that, and how the families were showing up and how they were engineering all of
Holy
this.
cow.
So it was this whole thing, and it blew my mind. I'm like, wow, Dad, this is amazing. He goes, yeah, I wanted you to see I've really grown.
Yeah, it does. It gives you a whole new aspect to these people, like to our parents or whoever it is. And it's like, oh, they're actually much bigger than we had thought.
Yeah, I was really amazed and proud of him that he had taken on, not only had he taken on dealing with his own stuff, but he had developed his ability to facilitate other people in understanding all their emotions and reasons for creating catastrophic illness.
That's remarkable. Like, what a great
I was
example.
proud of him.
Yeah. What else should we talk about?
I don't know. I think we've talked long enough.
I know.
Oh, wait. We're going to do more?
Yeah, no, I want to ask you something.
All right.
I don't know if I've ever asked you.
Oh dear.
So, oh dear.
Oh, dear.
So, if you were to choose a reincarnation just off the cuff, is there anything you'd like to be or do or have or something? What would it be like?
What would it
Just for
be
fun.
like? Gosh, I used to be able to answer that question, but I've kind of done this lifetime where I've kind of reincarnated myself several times. Like I've really done different things. I think it would really have been to like full on devote my life to a performing arts career, to creating performing arts pieces and immersive media, which I'm still on track to actually fulfill. I've done some of it, but like full on doing that. And that would be the thing, because really for me, what I know about myself is that I have very strong like mystic abilities, obviously teaching and healing. I did that for many years, like creative. And I would love to how can I, this is kind of my driving desire and inquiry. How can I turn my mystic spiritual experiences into creative media that hundreds of thousands, millions of people can enjoy, and that it would remind them of their own power and inner knowledge?
Wow, that's cool.
That would be it. It was
Yeah.
just to truly live the life of a artist mystic.
Yeah, right. Wow.
But in a big way.
Yeah.
Not in like an isolated, off in a little, monastery or mountain hut sort of way.
Oh, no, you want to live big.
Live big. Yeah. That would be
That's
it.
really cool.
I'm still on track. You're going to help me do this.
Okay, then. I'll push you along. Oh, that's a great aspiration. You know, and I could see you doing that.
Yeah. Well,
Why not?
It's so interesting because in like, I'm at a stage in my life where pretty much everybody who is like, you're in my age, they're retired or retiring, and we're creating a whole new thing. Like, I have tremendous appetite to create new things. I have a lot of appetite. And when I left medical practice, people couldn't understand, how could you leave? You're so good at it. I mean, there were a couple of reasons, but one of it was I fulfilled really everything I wanted to do in it. I wanted to do other things. So I have...
you're not done yet,
No,
are you?
I've pursued a lot of different things. So I've been fulfilling a lot. I'm a very eclectic person, and I have a lot of interests. And, I've done a lot of what I've wanted to do. I still have more. It's not like I don't have new interests, because this is part of, again, relates to the death and dying thing and incarnation and birth and all, is that, we're multidimensional beings. We have a lot of abilities. We have a lot of qualities. We have a lot of potential. It's unlimited. And not only that, we had this conversation the other day. The more you express and develop, the more there is to express and develop.
Yeah, it's like that. And creative people understand this, I think, or people that express their creativity. Everyone's creative. The more you create, the more energy you get. It's unlimited, actually. And it's not like I don't want to enjoy life. I do, but I want to create too, because that's equally enjoyable. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think one of the hardest things I have to see in my life is some of my friends, they get to a certain place, like they're done with their working career. And it's really, it's hard to express for me, but they're kind of like, I'm done now. Yeah. And I feel, it's not that they're not doing anything. They're enjoying their lives maybe, but I get a sense of doneness from them.
And
that's hard. Like, you just get this feel like, well. And I've talked to people. They just go, if I died now, I'd be okay.
And it's very.
And I get it, and I'm not saying they should be different. I'm not.
No, but there's a distinction to be made. I think a discernment between belief systems about age and usefulness and value and what's possible for you, after, mid 60s. So there's a difference between limiting negative beliefs and now you're living out, well, there's nothing left for me to do. That's one thing. Yeah. Which I don't.
55, you're on the scrap heap, mate.
Yeah. That's
Get over there. Get out of the way. Let that young person in.
60 is the new 40. Really, versus 70, 30. Versus the other side is if you really have like, okay, I came to do these things, develop these abilities, live this life, and I am really ready for something new. Yeah. And you're coming to the end for that. Now that's two different energies. Two different motivations, two different levels of consciousness.
Right. And I've experienced and been with people, former partners, that I could tell, like they had reached the end of what they wanted to experience and express. It's like,
which is totally
Seth
fine.
uses this term. I don't know if you've come across it, but it's like being born is the breath in, and then as you get older, and then you're going to leave this reality, it's the breath out. Right. And I really like that little
It is,
little
and it's
analogy.
A pulse. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And, oh, gosh, we can go into a whole thing about, prolonging life, preventing death. I mean, that's another episode. Because are you trying to do that because you're afraid of dying or because you want more life?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Again, important distinction.
Well, and looking at your ideas and beliefs about aging, life and death.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to keep working like an animal, because you're afraid of dying. So you think if you just keep working, well, death will won't notice that I'm ready, It's not like that.
No. Well,
it's because you want to do what you want to do.
Yeah. And we could keep talking about this, but I will just say for myself, as a person who has lots of appetite to create new things, I'm really happy to be creating new things with you.
Oh, me too. I do. I agree. I agree. And it's quite an adventure, which I'm really enjoying.
It is. It's really... Pause for a little mutual appreciation. We have a little mutual appreciation society here.
No, it's true.
And we appreciate all our listeners too. So I think with that...
Do you think we made an appointment in time to do this?
Undoubted.
Undoubtedly. It's like...
Do you have doubts? I have no doubts.
No, I know.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. Stay tuned for the next episode.